Coach's Corner is presented by Roanoke Valley Harley-Davidson. Stop by their store on Peters Creek Road for new and used motorcycles, service and repair, along with Harley-Davidson clothing and collectibles.
Hello and welcome in to another episode of Coach's Corner. I'm Mitch, Stewart, and this morning I'm joined by Dawgs head coach Dan Bremner. Dan, thanks for taking the time.
Of course.
Another really strong season for you guys. You end up getting into that first round series against the Ice Bears, and now that you've had maybe a few days to talk with your guys, a few days to process, I'm just curious to kind of hear what were your takeaways from that really hard-fought three-game series that ends up going Knoxville's way.
I think it's going to take a little bit more time, honestly. It's a tough pill to swallow. I thought the majority of both home games, we were the better team, and you can look at a statistical point of view with shots on net, scoring chances, and go down the list. But at the end of the day, obviously we didn't do enough, and throughout the lineup, throughout the coaching staff, we didn't do enough to get over the hump. First time in a long time that the coaching staff, the players, the fans are on the outside looking in after the first round, and it's a strange feeling and something that's got to change. But yeah, I mean, when you look at the Saturday game, dominate a first period 1-1, then we don't show up for about 20 minutes, and I don't know. Even when you come back and show up for a third and dominate it, if you're not playing honest and you're not playing a full 60 minutes, you get punished, and obviously we did. So, it's going to take a lot of a while here to kind of process it all and figure out exactly what changes we got to make and make sure that we're correcting this, because this is 2 years now where we felt like we've had a better team than our opponent and kind of fallen short.
Rewinding a little bit back to the regular season, you guys do set a franchise record with 34 wins on the season throughout the year. You finished third place in the standings. That ties a franchise best from last season. The attendance goes up. You guys end up finishing top 2 with the way you guys were able to pack out the Berglund Center throughout this season. How do you kind of view the season at large? I know that you always want to be there at the end going into the postseason, but just as far as the whole picture, what were kind of your takeaways? What were your feelings about what you guys were able to put together on the ice this year?
Sometimes I think it's dangerous to look too much at the regular season. Obviously, from the outside fan perspective, from wherever, it's there's great accolades there. There's a 10-game win streak, and all of that I think can kind of mask some things sometimes. Like you're finding ways to win in the regular season, and maybe we're not playing exactly the way that we want to be, and you're still finding ways to win, and then changes aren't coming or corrections aren't coming. And when that happens, sometimes you get to a point, where you have the team you have down the stretch, and you feel a certain way about them from earlier successes in the season. But I've said it since I was first here, and we were the team coming in as an 8th place team and an underdog team. It's not about how you play all year; it's about how you're playing at the right time. And no matter how we feel about those games that felt dominant, when you're not winning, it doesn't matter if you're not doing it at the right time.
You mentioned that 10-game winning streak, and it kind of felt like around Thanksgiving or so, you guys were starting to find your identity and starting to have a lot of success throughout the year, get up into the top half of the standings, and then eventually into the top 3. When you guys were at your best, when you were really buzzing around, humming around game after game there for a while, what were some of the traits that stuck out to you about this group? What kind of made you guys perform at that high level when you were able to find that success?
Right now when we're looking at it, we're thinking, not enough of a balance of grit and skill. I think, we lose a guy like McDade, we lose Gustav Mueller down a little bit after that as well, and those are two guys that not necessarily fighting, but like bring a gritty game. They own the puck, they go to the net with it. We continue to replace bodies, looking for the best players we can find, and they ended up. The look of our team became much more skill based, and it is reminiscent of last year a little bit. And not having the ability or not having the turnover to continue to find those kind of gritty players that it's their nature to take the puck to the net. Even this series, I look at it, and we did outchance them heavily, and when you're playing a goalie like that, you see it in the NHL playoffs all the time. More bodies getting to the net, more bodies carrying the puck to the net. There's going to be hot goalies that are going to stop those outside chances, but when there's traffic and there's chaos in front, the goal Gallagher scored on Saturday in the power play for us. More of that jam in front. That it's not necessarily going to be pretty, but in playoffs when you're facing that hot goalie, that mentality has to be more prevalent.
We've talked a lot about that main core group. Obviously, it's kind of added some pieces over the years, but when you look at Matt Jansen, Matt O'Day, Austin Rodebush, and Nick Ford, they all had very, very strong campaigns for themselves throughout the regular season and had that leadership going within the room. When you kind of look at that group, what they were able to bring to the table this year, how important has that been over the past few seasons where you guys have found a lot of success to kind of keep that group of leadership together in front of the locker room?
Yeah, it's been great, but at the same time, you look at that, whether it's team success or individual success in the regular season for the last 2 years for us hasn't resulted in team success in playoffs. And, it kind of brings me back to when we did win. I don't believe we had anybody up for individual awards that year. And some guys might have felt a certain way about that, but it was much more rounded out as far as our individual play through the year. And then, when you look at it a little bit deeper and you see that we're producing a lot early on in the season, and then that production is slowing down towards the end. When things get harder, when the game gets heavier, that's when you want our best players to be stepping up and being our best producers too. So. There's trends that we're looking at and how we correct that, and like I said, personnel as well, as far as the build of our roster and the look of it, as far as size, grit, skill. There's some things that it happens once and okay, you move on from it. It happens twice in a very similar fashion, and you better learn your lesson.
You were talking about maybe trying to find some of those adjustments, or maybe even the qualities that you guys might need to get back to where you want to be, just as far as taking the experience of this last week, where I know it's been pretty heavy on anyone that's downstairs that was out there on the ice or that's around it every day. What can you take from this past week where things maybe didn't go your way, trying to build through the offseason and in the start of next season to make sure that you get back over the hump, back to where you want to be?
Yeah, like I said, I think we're just kind of looking at it as a full roster standpoint. And we try to recruit, period, getting the best players in. And when that ends up happening, you replace a guy like McDade and you replace a guy like Goose with maybe not the same mentality, but talented players, but more of an outside mentality. It's hard to force them into the box when you have guys like Nenadal and Lavalley and Sargis, who, they had that inside gritty mentality that was just baked into them. There's only so much I think you can force players into different boxes, and you can push for a certain identity. But players are mostly going to rely on what their bread and butter is, and if they are more of a skill outside guy, that's going to be their main thing that they go to in times of pressure. As opposed to guys that are going to be more straight line up and down the ice and in front of the net mentality. So, definitely kind of looking at it as from a sense of actual roster build and making sure that a little bit, maybe a lack of balance when it comes to that as far as the amount of skill that we've had on these teams.
I know that you're going to be working on your protected list here soon. That'll be the last time we end up meeting up before the end of this season officially, before the summer starts. But once things do start to kind of slow down a little bit in the next couple of weeks, what does that kind of look like the next few weeks where you maybe get some time to yourself? And when does that page turn? When do the wheels start turning on the 25-26 season for you?
Yeah, this week is just trying to, get through the end of season stuff, the exit meetings, all that with the players. And some time I think is good and necessary. But, I've been already talking to DeVito about that, and again, coming back to the look of a roster and look of our depth chart and what kind of team we want to build. It's going to be a heavy recruiting summer, recruiting with purpose and finding, recruiting the best we can find, but also finding the right players too, and the right build and the right roles that we want filled. that maybe haven't been as consciously filled in the past as we've recruited, and we found guys that obviously were the best that we could find that slid into those roles a little bit more naturally. We have to push for that a little bit more.
We got two of the best at the top with you and DeVito, so great things coming ahead. I feel it for you, and always thank you for your time. Another great year with you.
Thanks, Mitch.
That's going to do it for this episode of Coach's Corner. The Rail Yard Dawgs have season tickets on sale now for the 2025-2026 season. Make sure that you're getting in touch with our front office to find out how you could be a part of another great year of Dawgs hockey here in the Star City. But until then, we thank you so much for tuning into this episode. We hope you have a great rest of your day.